signing legislation is as much a presidential power as issuing pardons is, right? They're both in the Constitution. The president has the power to execute, to execute legislation, has the power to pardon. If, as is the case with George W. Bush, he can delegate the signing of legislation.
You guys are missing the point.
I know.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to yesterday's news channel, where we watch CNN so you don't have to. Earlier today, Scott Jennings walked into the arena with Kasie Hunt and dropped a truth bomb the panel couldn't handle. The topic? President Biden's Autopen scandal and whether documents signed were even legitimate. The panel tried spinning it like it's no big deal, but Scott Jennings wasn't buying it. He calmly pointed out that if the president wasn't the one actually approving those orders and pardons, it's not governance, that's outsourcing the presidency. Anyway, let's watch Scott Jennings expose the CNN panel over Biden's Autopen scandal and see how fast the conversation collapses once the facts show up. Let's go.
Elliot Williams, the Autopen, first of all, has been used in the past occasionally, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so fact check there. But what, if anything, is there any there to this?
I'm really not seeing it, only because the tradition of Autopens has existed in every presidential administration across parties. I had an Autopen when I worked at ICE.
I'm sorry, Elliot Williams?
Elliot Williams literally had an Autopen.
You were important enough to have an Autopen. I'm so impressed.
I am important, Kasie, but no, and so it's a common practice.
Did you allow people to use the name Elliot Williams without your knowledge of the document or what was on the page?
I don't recall. So
I'm asking you, if you were a government official and you had an Autopen, which you did, would you let some staffer sign things in your name without reading?
Yeah, here's the question. Was my authority delegated to that person? And I think they do have the authority to do so. Laws and regulate, and I'm serious, Scott, laws and regulations.
The authority to delegate pardons and executive orders, the president of the United States can say, you unelected staffer can go sign my name on a document that I've never seen for a decision that I've never made?
Quite often, the United States Code delegates authority. So through the President of the United States, through the Attorney General, whatever else, X person can carry out a function. And certainly that could be the case. Now, Donald Trump, for instance, in his first term, pardoned like 1,600 people. And I have a hard time believing that he was aware of every single person that he was pardoning. One could make a challenge. Every president does this. Now, if it's a question about Biden's fitness for office, did he know what he was? Of course, raise that question. But I just, one, given how vast the pardon power is, and two, given how comprehensive the use of Autopens are across administrations, I have a hard time seeing a legal challenge.
Nobody can be delegated the pardon power.
Yes.
It is a constitutional power.
Yes.
And I don't really think you can delegate the executive order power either, because the executive has to make the order.
So, Scott, the President George W. Bush, and forgive me, I'm doing some research here in real time, but we are on justice.gov, Office of Legal Counsel. Date of issuance, July 7th, 2005. So this is the Bush administration. They ask whether the president may sign a bill by directing that his signature be affixed to it. And the Justice Department says, yes, the president need not personally perform the physical act of affixing his signature to a bill he approves and decides to sign in order for the bill to become law. Rather, the president may sign a bill within the meaning of Article 1, Section 7 by directing a subordinate to affix the president's signature to such a bill, for example, by Autopen.
The issue is not the use of the Autopen. The issue is the last thing you said, directing someone, the president making a decision. What Comer and the guys over at Oversight have found is that there's no clear evidence that Joe Biden personally made the decisions that only a president can make.
Well,
there's no way around it. There's a legitimate question here. Republicans aren't just nitpicking over Autopen here. This might prove once and for all, despite the fact that we know it already, that Joe Biden wasn't actually the one running the show. When executive orders, pardons, and who knows what else were signed by a machine instead of by the man himself, that's not just lazy. In my opinion, that's illegitimate. Now, of course, I'm biased, but I mean, the entire idea of a unitary executive, one elected person responsible for the decisions, falls apart if unelected aides are slapping his name on things. I mean, I guess we'll see what happens. The Republicans are definitely digging in. I mean, they're demanding every chain of custody record, every order, every pardon, basically saying, show us that he actually knew what he was signing. Do I think they can win? Absolutely, but only if they can prove the president wasn't the one directing the Autopen signatures. The key is intent. If they can show that Biden wasn't fully aware or that staffers acted without him, then everything they touch could be challenged. And that would make Watergate look like something that's not as big as Watergate. I'm not good at these. Now, the challenge is that there's an old DOJ memo saying the president can delegate the physical act of signing as long as he approved the decision. So it's a high bar. So it's not as simple as just proving the Autopen signed the paper, but that the president's brain wasn't behind it. I mean, doesn't seem like that should be that hard, does it? Personally, I really, really hope they pull this off, because there are a litany of people who've been pardoned under Joe Biden that I would love to see the DOJ take a crack at. Back to it.
Fair question, but signing legislation is as much a presidential power as issuing pardons is, right? They're both in the Constitution. The president has the power to execute, to execute legislation, has the power to pardon. If, as is the case with George W. Bush, he can delegate the signing of legislation.
You guys are missing the point.
The
allegation is Joe Biden had no idea that his signature was being affixed to certain things, and if that's true, it is a valid question. If the president doesn't personally make a decision or make a direction.
I think it's perfectly a valid question. I'm just saying the notion of presidents delegating their authority,
the president's not a figurehead.
Even on constitutionally mandated powers, the president can delegate his authority, and that might have been the case here.
Every piece of testimony that's come before the committee so far by people who would be in the know have all said the president knew, he was aware, he directed. The president has said it since then, that he was aware and he knew and he directed.
Yeah, and
so
Scott, we were talking about this. We were talking about this in the break. I mean, one thing that could be done is you call the president and people around him to testify to explain his level of knowledge. My point is, I think every power has some way of being executed through other people in American government. If it's a broader question about was Joe Biden fit to be president, well, that's a political debate to be had. Congress can have it.
To me, it's just very simple. That what they have found is that there's no clear, they can't really document the decision-making chain of command. So you get the president's signature on documents and no clear paper trail of how he made that decision, who he told to affix his name to it. It's a legitimate investigation.
So I'm really invested in this Autopen investigation. I'd like to share with you a personal story as to why. And it's a story of the time in my life when I finally defined my politics. Now, you guys look at me and you say, Matt's got it all together. He's one of my heroes. And listen, I appreciate that, but I'm just a guy, good looking, well-spoken, insightful guy. But despite your obviously excellent taste and flawless judgment, I wasn't always this put together. But seriously, though, for a long time, I didn't really have a worldview. I just kind of nodded along with people who sounded like they knew what they were talking about. Then came the pandemic. And suddenly everything in my head started breaking. Like, why is the government lying about masks? Why are there arrows on grocery store floors? Why can I sit inside next to someone all day, but outside I have to be 6 feet away? And I'm not a doctor, but I thought sunlight was good for the immune system, like because of vitamin D and stuff, right? Well, why are they closing the beaches? Oh yeah, and why is Gavin Newsom eating at the French Laundry when he literally just told his entire state to stay home? But even after all that, the thing that really hit me was the reaction from people I thought were friends. I'd ask these questions just like, you guys are seeing this, right? And like I was a villain all of a sudden. I was like, what is happening? I couldn't even join my own family for Christmas because the host wanted everyone vaccinated. And I really don't think I'm a resentful person. I mean, I don't know, maybe I am more than I think. At least I try not to be, right? But I think I still have some resentment about that. Not necessarily because of the people I mentioned in my story, although I don't know, I kind of see them differently, but because someone had to have lied to them. Someone had to have put all that fear in their heads. And the more and more I kind of followed it, that someone who literally told America he was the science was Anthony Fauci. To this day, if there's a congressional oversight hearing and Rand Paul is grilling Fauci, I am glued to the TV. When I heard Joe Biden pardon Fauci, I went into a 6-month depression. Now, if perhaps that pardon was signed with an Autopen, while I condemn the action, I'm going to let that one slide. As we all know, Biden had no clue what he was signing, and staffers were probably firing up that machine whenever they wanted. So I pray that Republicans pull every lever, use every trick in the book, and win this Autopen invalidity case. I want Fauci's pardon revoked. I want Fauci investigated. And yes, I want him in jail. So am I invested in the Biden Autopen investigation? Yeah. But what do you guys think? I guess just about the whole Autopen investigation. And selfishly, what do you think about what I said? Can you relate? I mean, am I a monster for carrying this resentment? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, that's it for this video. No announcements. Thank you very, very much for taking some time out of your day to watch my video. And if you stuck around this far, for listening to me rant. I always hope to impress upon all of you, not just from me saying thank you, but through my work too, how much I appreciate you. Other than that, do me a favor and put God first. I'll see you guys.